2021. This is the regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. The board has been in closed session since 5:30 this evening for items listed on the agenda. Governor Pritzker continues the disaster declaration related to the COVID-19 pandemic for all Illinois counties. Currently, Phase 4 guidelines are in place, which limits the number of individuals in a space. In accordance with Board Policy 2.230, members of the public who wish to offer in-person public comment are able to do so at this meeting. To adhere to Phase 4 guidelines, there will be a limited number of seats available in the meeting room. The board president will call the public comment speaker to the podium based on the order in which the speaker signed in. A sign-up sheet will be available at the entrance to the building until 7 o'clock. In accordance with Board Policy 2.230, members of the public will be allocated up to 3 minutes per speaker. The board president has set 30 minutes as the length of time for the public comment section of this meeting. Members of the public may stay in the meeting space if the limited number of seats remain available. The board meeting continues to be live streamed for viewing on the district's website. Written public comments can also be provided where the board will acknowledge the written comment, but they will not be read. See Agenda Item 1B for the links. Electronic public viewing can be found at Board Docs by clicking the video button. So at this time, we have all 7 board members present, and I would like to have us stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like, I move that the Board of Education move agenda item 8A to 4B on our agenda this evening.
I second.
Okay. Any comment? All right. Then I will, Jenna, could you call the vote, please?
Mrs. Stupin?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hostler?
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio?
Yes. 7 ayes, no nays. The motion passes. Okay, so we're going to begin tonight's meeting with a very special item on the agenda. And so I'm going to begin and do a lot of reading, and then what? We just voted to move 8A. Oh, you said 4B? Oh. Oh, all right, well, let's do it again. Right? Or? Oh, okay. Okay, so we're good? Okay. All right. Okay, so tonight it is with great pride and excitement I introduce to you on behalf of the Board of Education the next Superintendent of District 205, Dr. Keisha Campbell. So if she would please come up to the podium. She's in the back. And I'm going to read her bio and some other comments, and then the board will comment. Dr. Keisha Campbell is an accomplished educator and leader. She earned her BS in elementary education from Illinois State University, a master's of education in instructional leadership, and a doctorate of education and leadership, both from the University of Illinois at Chicago. She has over 20 years of service spanning in various capacities, from classroom teacher, school-based instructional coach, district literacy coach, and elementary and middle school principal. She currently serves as Director for School Leadership with the Academy for Urban School Leadership. The Academy for Urban School Leadership has the largest teacher residency program in the country and provides advisory services to school districts nationally. Additionally, the Academy for Urban School Leadership specializes in school management, serving over 16,000 students across a unit network of 31 schools within Chicago. As a principal, Dr. Keisha Campbell's exemplary leadership capacity resulted in significant student achievement gains, including an increase of 30% of students meeting and exceeding standards in just 3 years, 98% of students meeting national growth targets in math, and 90% of students meeting literacy targets as measured by NWEA. As a director of school leadership, she led the development of vastly competent, high-performing adult teams, resulting in a 16% increase in student attainment as measured by NWEA, and 100% of her schools increasing in school quality performance ratings. In addition to supervising principals and managing schools, Dr. Campbell serves as a resource and leader for all school campuses in developing and prioritizing social emotional wellness for adults and students. Her expertise spans from building organizational capacity to drive student achievement, leader development, continuous school improvement cycles, equity-focused practices, utilization of data to inform decision-making, and maintaining strong communication structures while cultivating and sustaining trusting relationships with all stakeholders. Dr. Campbell has been invited to present and share with districts, school leaders, teachers, and parents on topics including growth mindset, social emotional learning, high leverage instructional practices, principal leadership and support, parent engagement, and school transformation strategies. In 2010, she was personally invited to present to the U.S. Department of Education on school reform and improvement, and she was a recent recipient of the Golden Apple Teaching Scholarship and numerous other awards. She's consulted with the Gates Foundation on the improvement of district structures to increase student achievement and continues her professional growth and development as a district administrator in partnership with the University of Washington Center for Educational Leadership. Dr. Campbell's professional accomplishments and collaborative leadership fit the characteristics of the candidate profile created by the rigorous community engagement process during the search. She received excellent reviews after engaging with multiple stakeholder groups and was chosen by the Board of Education as the candidate best suited to lead District 205's next chapter. According to one of her references, Dr. Campbell's ability to galvanize a team to achieve a shared vision is unlike anyone they have ever met. She is willing to have the difficult conversations that bring people together for a shared goal and establish trust. Dr. Campbell is reflective, open to feedback, and possesses a strong willingness to work on her craft. Another reference stated, "When she is in my building to visit a couple times a week, my teachers are so excited and proud to show her the work taking place in their classrooms that is helping achieve the shared vision for our students. She is relentlessly student-focused and provides the support and the development for me as a leader to grow and to lead with excellence." Dr. Campbell, as a graduate of Bryan Middle School and York High School, and a current parent of 2 District 205 students, is deeply committed to the continued success and forward movement of our district. In the next few months, Dr. Campbell will begin working with the Board of Education to establish goals and working norms, come alongside Dr. Yonke to begin transitioning, and most importantly, meet with our school communities and greater community to both listen and establish foundational and effective relationships. On a personal note, I have been a part of District 205 for over 15 years. I recall walking house to house to gather data to support the addition to Emerson School in the 2006 referendum. That experience taught me firsthand that Elmhurst is a community that supports its schools generously, and that passion for and the investment in our children has only grown stronger over the years. Dr. Campbell, after 4 years on the board, I can confidently say that we have laid a very strong foundation and are ready for your leadership. I look forward to working alongside you and my colleagues to begin our next chapter. I have every confidence that under your leadership, District 205 will be a nationally recognized and top-ranked school district. Welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to scream, but thank you. Thank you to the Board of Education for engaging and leading along the School Exec Connect such a rigorous process. Your time, your commitment, your dedication, and your service is actually absolutely commendable. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you, including Dr. Yonke. I want to thank the entire District 205 school community, to our students and our parents, to our staff, to our leaders for engaging in this process as well, for completing the surveys, for coming to the stakeholder engagement meetings, for even engaging in interviews with many highly qualified candidates. And last but not least, I have to thank my support system, my husband, my girls, and my mom. I'm excited, and I am so ready to take this journey along with you all. I am committed, just as you all are, to our students and into ensuring that we have the best schools in the nation and in our state. As a graduate of both Bryan Middle School and York High School, go Dukes, as well as now a parent, this is an absolute dream come true, and I am honored and deeply grateful. Thank you.
So I'm going to let my colleagues, say a few words, and then we'll do the official vote on the contract. So Beth, do you want to start?
So I'm really excited to welcome you to District 205 as our new superintendent. I have been really impressed with your wide range of experience and your infectious enthusiasm that I think will greatly benefit this district and our students and their families and our staff. I grew up here in Elmhurst, and I attended District 205 schools and graduated from York High School like you did. So I can appreciate your strong connection to this really special community. And in talking with you, I could feel your investment in the success of the students in this district and bringing our district along to the next steps. I know that you will move us forward from this very difficult year that we've had, and I'm excited to have you start this next chapter with us in a positive and productive way. Welcome.
Thank you.
I have to say, I am prejudiced toward anyone who is an alum, who chooses us before we choose them, already a community resident, a mother in our community with children in our schools. I'll take you up on your offer to make our schools the best in the state and the best of the nation. And I'll work with you to support you to make sure that happens. So, welcome.
Thank you.
I too want to say welcome. We recognize your connections. We are enlivened by your passion and your commitment. And in recognition that while I won't be on the board, I will be in the community. I will definitely be involved. I am very excited on the path that we have chosen in moving forward. So thank you. High expectations, and I'm sure you'll meet the challenge.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Keisha, welcome.
Thank you.
Great enthusiasm all the way through. The big thing that I liked is every time we saw you, you brought us something. and this is my best diagram here, that I think depicts what you bring to the table, is there's so many moving parts. And the way that we do this well is by understanding each of the components and the values of each one and how we work together as a machine. A lean, mean machine, as the Green Mile goes.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yes.
And so that's what we heard, and that's what we saw, and that's what I gathered from the various references that you shared with us to talk to, and that I personally was assigned to. And what I heard was everyone wants to work for you, and nobody wants to leave you. And a little bit of background about that is that where Keisha comes from, a lot of her leadership roles, she was chosen as one of the first group to do what she does. And from that day one, that person was one of your references and has been around and would still love to work for you. And the only reason why she doesn't is because you both live in two different places now. That's a huge testament, because we had a thorough process, and I think that that's important for us to highlight, is we had hundreds of applicants, lots that came down, through the process, through our search firm, and we saw strong candidates. And, we don't take the decision lightly, and we weren't single focused looking at it. And, we thank the community, we thank the staff, we thank the students that all participated. You had great things to say about that process and the input that you received. And what you did was, if I can list 3 characteristics, it's listen, learn, and lead. And it's lead by bringing all the components together. Again, it was illustrated, but I like the fact that I have that visual because I'm a visual. And you characterize that from, you received input and feedback throughout the process, and we saw change. People saw change. It illustrates in embodiment lifelong learning, which is what we represent. Education is about instilling somebody, for all of our students and all of our staff. It's all about lifelong learning. And so that's refreshing and that's awesome. And I think that will be a great example. One last thing that I thought was important that I heard consistently from references is the message of why. And I had people at different parts of the organization that I was calling. And what helped them embrace things is that you spoke from their perspective. And so in my professional role, what we said is, you speak to your audience. It's the messaging of why. And therefore, they wanted to be on board. That's why they chose you of all these candidates, bosses, basically, in schools that you, in your previous, or your role last 9 or 15 years, is everybody wanted to choose you out of everyone is because you messaged that to them, and they just wanted to grab onto it and learn and achieve and be successful as a team. So that was the other component. And lastly is, really the team. And you can't do this well, without a team. And you had a quote about, Henry Ford, so I thought it was really perfect. So the best car will be, the best school system for us and our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. You mentioned the process, and I think it's important for the community to understand how truly rigorous it is. Karen mentioned how many applicants we had, how many board meetings we had over weeks. For us just to narrow it down to that kind of end process that you went through. And then you navigated yourself through, along with some other candidates, 3 panel interviews consisting of administrators and faculty members and community members. And I think it's important that our community recognizes how long and detailed and thorough that process was and how many stakeholders were involved. I personally completed additional reference calls for you, and all that I can say is to add on to Kara and Karen what they mentioned is that it was infectious how much people just wanted to succeed because of you and how you inspired them. And that's an amazing gift, and I can't wait to see it in action in our district. But I thought the best gift I could give to you tonight and the best vote of confidence I could give you, other than my viewpoint, is to hear some of the comments that those panels said about you. From an administrator, she has extensive experience in social emotional learning. She seems to want to see initiatives finished in order to determine clear results. She strikes a balance between front office direction and autonomy to principals to make best decisions for their schools. From another administrator, she has a wealth of experience in a variety of different contexts that allows her to be a well-rounded individual who can speak to all stakeholders. She's enthusiastic, smart, knowledgeable about our community and about instruction and what is best for kids. She is collaborative and encouraging, and I truly believe she will empower all staff to move forward. We have a great opportunity for her to make significant changes for the better, and I think we would be foolish to pass her up. I think she will repair relationships and trust while at the same time holding people accountable to our clear expectations. It is evident that students are what grounds her, and we need to have that common focused vision that we're all striving for. From a faculty member, Dr. Campbell has the experience, the dedication, the heart, and the respect to take District 205 to places it has never been before. Another faculty member, I think we will witness some amazing things happen, and we will see our community brought back together again. From a community member, Dr. Campbell's energetic outlook, her work history, ties to the Elmhurst community, and her educational accomplishments are invaluable strengths she'll bring to this position. Another community member said, I think this candidate is the best for Elmhurst. She has the most relevant experience as an educator at various levels, most intimate knowledge and connection to Elmhurst, and a galvanizing personality that will bridge the gaps between our various stakeholders. So we believe in you across the board, this community, the administration, and this faculty. I am feeling optimistic, and that's something to be said after the year we've all endured. I can't wait to see the bright future for our community, and I have every confidence that where you're going to bring us is significant, and I'm just very excited, and I really want to thank you for choosing us.
All right. Well, much has been said already, but I just would reiterate congratulations to you and also your family who's back there somewhere. I think you should be very proud. It was a competitive process, and to emerge as the new superintendent, I think is quite an accomplishment and a great example, success story for young people to key in on. So you should be very proud of yourself, and your family should be very proud as well. And I look forward to working with you over the years ahead to help more of our kids learn at a higher level and improve our schools. So thank you.
Okay. So now we get into the official part. The contract before the board is a 3-year performance-based contract beginning on July 1st of 2021 and goes through June 30th of 2023. Under the terms of the contract, Dr. Keisha Campbell's base salary for the 2021 school year is $225,000. The other contract terms are those customary of other administrator contracts. The goals under the contract relate to improving student success in the learning environment, recommending a budget that prioritizes fiscal responsibility and increases effectiveness of all departments and enhances collaboration and communication with all District 205 stakeholders. So the board has reviewed the contract, so at this point, I will ask for a motion to approve the appointment and contract of Dr. Keisha Campbell.
I move that the Board of Education approve the new superintendent contract as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Jenna, you can call the vote.
Mrs. Troutman,
Yes?
Mrs. Hostler,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mrs. Stupan,
Yes?
Dr. Harrell,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio.
Yes, 7 ayes, no nays, the motion passes. Welcome to District
Thank
205.
you.
Do you want, yeah.
Thank you.
And Keisha, I would like to add my congratulations as well. And I had the privilege of calling some of your references and understanding your work, and that the organization that you work for puts tremendous pressure on its leaders to produce. And I know that you will bring that skill, and you did it while building relationships and getting those results. And I look forward to seeing what you do here. I want to thank you for being interested in this position and applying and going through this. And I want to thank your family for being here tonight. I think that's so special. Your mom and your husband and daughters. Thank you. And congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Hold on. I just want to clarify that the contract goes from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2024. You're here for longer than till 2023. So,
Thought maybe something had changed.
so the contract that you signed, but I want to clarify just publicly. So sorry about that, but that's why I have somebody who listens in and catches any mistakes. So thank you, Dr. Campbell. We have really enjoyed, we've gotten to spend a lot of time with you. We did put you through a rigorous process, and the community should really be excited about what's ahead. I know you're excited. And there's a communication going out tonight so the community can get a taste of you through a video, and just welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
go celebrate.
Thank you.
And we're very happy to be working with you. Congratulations.
Oh. Make sure you get enough pictures. Take one with, somebody take one of all of them. Yeah. All right. What? All right. Should I go ahead? Okay. All right. So now we will move through the the agenda in the order presented. So we have public comments. There will be 30 minutes allocated, and as with all public comments, please note that it is the board's practice to listen to public comments with interest in what is being shared and not to provide a response or to engage in discussions. In order for the board to maintain civility and decorum of the meeting, we ask you be courteous and respectful to members of the board, our district leadership team, district staff, and the process for providing your public comment. Please state your name when you come to the podium and limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes so we can hear as many speakers as possible. There will be a timekeeper, and they will let you know when you have 30 seconds left, and you can wrap up your comment. So there are 2 people here for public comment. The first is Chris Lampka. Is that? Okay, sorry about that. Just make sure the microphone's green and on. Should be okay. The bass.
Is it good?
Yep.
Good evening. My name is Chris Lamika, and I'm the father of 2 District 205 students. I'm here tonight to question the board's stance on quarantining healthy students and the unrealistic, unscientific parameters that D205 is using to exclude healthy students from in-person learning and extracurricular activities. I'd like to start by asking the board, what specific data has D205 collected concerning the transmission rate between infected students and healthy students? This is the key metric to analyze, so let's examine that data. According to the D205 COVID dashboard, a total of 568 students and teachers have tested positive since September, and 6,898 students and staff have had to quarantine. That is a ratio of 12 persons quarantined for every one infected, 12 to 1. Now let's compare that to our neighboring community of Wheaton. Currently, there are 475 positive cases and a total of 2,185 students and staff quarantined since September. That is a ratio of 4 to 1. It begs the question, why are Elmhurst D205 schools quarantining students at a rate 3 times higher than neighboring districts? This serves only to promote an atmosphere of fear. The COVID mortality rate, according to the latest research from Johns Hopkins, is 1.8%, with a large majority of these deaths due to the presence of comorbidity. The infection data and death rate do not bear out the need for continued quarantines because the recovery rate is 98.2%. The virus has proven to be no more deadly than the seasonal flu. Those who have comorbidity or pre-existing conditions can and should take the necessary precautions and vaccines, which are readily available. So when can the community return to living normal lives? The question, of course, is rhetorical because it appears that a select number of individuals in positions of power have no interest in returning to normal. The power to restrict certain students from receiving in-person instruction is being based on unreliable testing data and illogical distancing models. Parents and students are given no information on what tests were conducted or when they were conducted or by whom. We have no information on what methods were used to determine a person's proximity. So it appears that the authority to withhold in-person learning is almost entirely capricious and arbitrary, yet totally absolute. Parents and students have no recourse to appeal these quarantine decisions, and there's no way to recover the lost in-person instruction.
30 seconds.
Why does Elmhurst continue to fall behind neighboring communities? I believe that we had overcome a major hurdle by having former Superintendent Moyer released from his contract. Unfortunately, his idiotic legacy of saliva testing and quarantining appears to still be with us. When will those whom we have entrusted with the well-being of our children's education realize that the same measures which they believed were helpful to slowing the spread are now increasing the depression, increasing the isolation, and are ultimately failing our sons and daughters?
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Avery Bernaeus. Sorry.
Sorry. Hi everyone, my name is Avery Brown Eyes and I am a 6th grader at Sandburg Middle School. I just began full in-person school yesterday. Even though we are full in person, it feels as though most of our teachers speak to their computer, not us. Most of my favorite classes are my favorite because the teacher interacts with us and talks with us. One of my classes has almost 30 kids and the teacher spends most of the time talking to the computer at 2 remote kids instead of the 28 that are sitting right in front of him. After a school has put in the time and risk of COVID-19 to get us in person, it seems to me that for some of my classes, there is no benefit of being at school. We could be on the Zoom watching our teachers talk at home. Especially now that our classes are longer, I think that the teachers should divide instructional time between remote and in-person kids so that the in-person learners can get the full experience. The first day we went fully in person to go eat lunch, I was instructed to sit somewhere where the only people around me were 2 boys whom I didn't know. As the lunch period continued, I felt lonely without my friends, which was very hard for me. A few weeks ago, Sandburg was letting us eat our snacks for 20 minutes, 6 feet apart facing each other. But now for 30 minutes, we can't face each other, but it's acceptable to turn your head to speak to someone. Me and many of my friends were talking after lunch, and we all agreed that we felt isolated and lonely. COVID has been hard mentally on all of us, and Saybrook has not made it any easier for us. One possible solution is that the lunchroom could be split into 4 quadrants, and the school could have a marking at every seat 6 feet apart and let students choose where to sit. That way, each student has to stay in their quadrant for the rest of the year for contract racing, but then they will be happier and more cheerful in school since they would be with their friends. Another possible solution is giving kids surveys in which they would say maybe 10 or so of their peers who they get along with and would be okay sitting by them. Then the school could give each kid a few of their requests. Middle school lunch is already hard enough, especially this year, and it seems like Sandburg is doing everything to make it harder for us, when it should be the other way around. Kids need to feel safe and comfortable physically and mentally. I agree we should make friends, but right now we need the support of people that we already know and trust. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Okay. Those are the only public comments that we have. There are how many written?
There are
any
5
written? 5 written
comments
comments.
submitted.
Okay. So, all right. So we are ready to move on with the agenda, reports and presentations. First thing is the proposed Series 2021 bond sale presentation. So I'm assuming Elizabeth is joining us. There she is. Yes.
Wonderful. Let me share a presentation that I believe you all have in your board packet. Can you see that on the screen? Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let me just get the slideshow going. Okay. So I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed 2021 bond sale. Let me just review the market and where the referendum was passed back November 6th of 2018, where interest rates were then. Just to orient you, this is our AAA Municipal Market Data Index. It's an index that's reset every day. And the purple line is the 1 year, the red line is the 10-year, and the blue line is the 10-year US Treasury bond. The yellow line is the 30-year AAA Municipal Market Data Index. So you can see our first issue was priced July 23rd of 2019, and we certainly enjoyed a reduction of interest rates to that point. The board at that time decided to make that issue larger and lock in those rates. Then going forward into our difficult year of COVID, we saw market dislocation as we recognized what was happening with the pandemic in March of 2020, then really had very low and stable interest rates and demand for municipal bonds throughout the summer, hitting one of our all-time low interest rates in August of 2020, and then coming back to sell 40 million of the issue on November 16th of 2020, taking advantage of the super low interest rates. And as you recall, we passed that parameters resolution and we were able to lock that in at a really great time in the market. Then here we are in April of 2021, and the reason we set the next issue for this time frame is because it coincides with a call date on the Series 2012 bonds, a portion of which need to be refunded, as well as a portion of the 2015 bonds to achieve our debt structure that we talked about with the community back in November and prior to the referendum of November of 2018. This time we're looking at issuing 15 million of new money and then the refundings, which are small. I'll get into that in a minute. This next slide shows the actual numbers and the dates of the pricing. So we like to look at that 10-year AAA Municipal Market Data Index highlighted in yellow and the 20-year. Our bonds are all having relative average life of around 10 years. So you can see the first issue was in July of 2019, where that index was at 155. We then hit the second phase in November of 2020, where we were all the way down to that 0.81 in November of 2020, and we're at about 103 on the 10-year. But it's interesting if you look at the shorter term rates, how low they have actually gone. And then our long bond is also quite low at this time. So to talk about the referendum financing plan, I apologize, this screen has tons of numbers on it, but starting from the left, this is our financing plan. We start with the levy year and the equalized assessed value. We just received the information from DuPage County that the EAV for 2020 went up by 5.15%. Consistent with our projections all along, we're looking at a 1% increase in the future to try to be conservative. The current service is represented in the next column, moving to the right. And as we've talked about in the past, the district does have some outstanding bonds that need to mature before the majority of the principal on the new 160 million can be wrapped around to try to keep that tax rate and tax payment very level and steady for the community. So here you see the final August 2019 pricing, the 60 million, the November 2020 pricing on the 40 million. And here we come in the highlighted in the yellow is the proposed 2021 pricing. This is 15 million new money and refunding. So this may look a bit strange because we have some negative numbers here. That reflects refunding, moving some debt service around. We call it restructuring in order to make some room to pay interest on our new debt while our old bonds are still outstanding. And then the last issue, which is protected in January of 23, is for 53.5 million. And as you know, we always put an interest rate cushion. In the 21 issue here, we have a 50 basis point interest rate cushion. And in the 2023 issue, which is off a ways, we've got 1.5% additional on top of these interest rates. So that's, again, just to be conservative. As we go across the page, we see that estimated total debt service. Here in 2020 levy year, the debt service is 14,179,000. Of course, the district, you may remember the board approved an abatement resolution earlier this year, which will take that number down by about 3.1 million to offset the CPI increase under the tax limitation law for the overall levy. So that is not reflected in this spreadsheet, but just know that actual levy is going to be closer to $11 million. And then going forward, we're starting to see, some of increases. Sorry, I said 40 cents, it's 48 cents over here on this side. So it's 48 cents of EAV for 2020 levy year. It's going to be lower, of course, because of the abatement, but some of the increases we've always talked about happening here in 21, 22, and 23. So you can see we're right around the 50 cents, high watermark of 54 cents, and then leveling off right around the 50-cent mark. And with the rate going down the further we go out as the tax base continues to grow. So this is our most updated scenario. I thought I would open up the referendum financing or the refunding portion of the financing for you so you can see what we're doing here and why. This is kind of into the weeds, but I wanted to share with you why we're doing this refunding. So if we start on the left side of the page again, we've got the proposed 15 million plus the refunding. This is a total of all these columns in blue. The 15 million new money is shown next. Then we've got capitalized interest to defer the interest in the first 3 years. Then we have a refunded portion of the 2012 bonds that highlighted 6.9 million. So that's going to be moved into these green highlighted numbers, the 2.3 million and the 1.2 million. So we're moving that out 2 years. This longer portion is a proportional allocation required by federal tax law which is just splitting up part of that new money into the refunding portion, which is, again, a federal tax law requirement. The 2015 refunding is a taxable refunding, and it's taxable because these bonds were already refunded back in 2015. But again, it's a very short refunding, moving the bonds out from years 21 and 22 levy years to 24 and 25. So if we go to the bottom part of the page, we can see we've got savings from the refunding of the 2012. We do have some savings from the refunding of the 2015, but altogether, this restructuring, even though we're stretching bonds out a bit, is saving the district in aggregate $171,000. So this restructuring, because we're in such a great low interest rate environment still, we're able to save money for the district in terms of present value savings, which is of course after paying any cost of issuance. Here's the debt structure without the refunding, just to show you where these bars kind of pop up on the payments. And then here's what we're looking at with the restructuring, just to show you why we need to do those refundings. And again, this goes back to the plan that was set forth in November of 2018 for the issuance of the bonds. So I'll pause there and just ask if there's any questions on that refunding or restructuring. Let me go to the next slide then and look at this comparison we see often. The promise, which is what we told taxpayers back in 2018, versus the estimate after 115 million of the 168.5 million bonds are sold based on our estimates today, April 13th. So the one thing that changes about the promise and also changes on our estimate is every time the EAV goes up, the tax rate goes down. So if you go back to our original referendum materials, we were looking at the average payment on the referendum bonds that were outstanding, $674 for a $500,000 home. And then we compared that with what the payments would be from 2018 to 2042 with the new bonds of $793. Right now, based on our new EAV, that's $118 for that $500,000 home. Back when the EAV was lower in 2018, we were closer to $150. So again, as the tax base grows, the value of homes increase, and additional commercial properties come into the district, the value of the tax base increases, making each individual homeowner slice of the pie a little bit smaller. So the promise is now a $118 increase. And based on our current debt structure, with these 115 million of the bonds sold, and an estimate for the last sale in 23, we're looking at only an increase of $23. So, we've had a wonderful market since 2018 with which to bring the bond issues to market. And hopefully that will, good luck, will stay with us through 2023. So with that, I'll turn to the schedule. On March 23rd, we had our rating interview with Standard & Poor's. We did receive confirmation of the AA+ rating already. Chris Welton did an excellent job, as he always does, talking to the rating agencies about the district's financial performance. So board meeting April 13th, that's tonight. We're reviewing the financing plan now. And in your board packets, you have also received a draft of the parameters bond resolution and the escrow resolutions. Those escrow resolutions refer to the refunding of the Series 2012 and 2015 bonds. The 2012 bonds are callable on July 1 of 21, but the 2015 bonds are have maturities in the next 3 years. So we will set up a refunding escrow where the proceeds of the refunding bonds are invested in that U.S. Treasury securities in that escrow at a bank and pay off those refunded bonds. So the parameters bond resolution authorizes the board and the district to go forward with a sale of 15 million new money. In that resolution, it says up to 17 million, okay? And that is outside parameter in the case that we have investors demanding some discount bonds, which have been somewhat in favor. But the proceeds are supposed to be around 15 million. So that will most likely be downsized. The parameters resolution also authorizes a maximum principal amount, a maximum levy, consistent with the spreadsheets we've reviewed tonight, and authorizes the board president and the assistant superintendent for finance, Chris Welton, to approve the final bond sale. So then we come to the board meeting on April 27th, where the board will hopefully approve that parameters bond resolution and escrow resolutions. And then we intend to go to market the week of May 3rd, assuming the market is still strong and good. And we'll have the final approval by those board delegates, and then close the bond issue and deliver the proceeds on May 25th. So any questions?
Yeah, so just, Elizabeth, just so I'm clear, so what you're proposing here is to essentially defease the outstanding debt and then issue 15 million of proceeds on top of that?
Correct.
Correct, okay. And the 15 million, what, just from a regulatory perspective, because I know there are some limitations in place, what could that grow to be if we decided to issue more sooner for the referendum projects?
Right now, we have a maximum of 17 million. So we could size that slightly, but, and go out a little further. We didn't do that based on the district's current draw schedule, but we'd be happy to take a look at that and see what would be justified by the construction draw schedule in terms of upsizing the bond issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be interesting just to see the math on that, just given where rates are right now from both a short-term and also a long-term perspective. And I think a general consensus expectation that they'll be rising in the future. So I would appreciate just understanding what our limitation is, because I know if we raise the bonds, we have to invest it within a certain number of months, although I think it's pretty long-lived on that. And then just what the math would mean for taxpayers if we were to upsize from here.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
happy to look at that. And, you know, we've got very detailed draw schedules from Mr. Welton, so we will make sure that we're meeting those requirements. You've got to spend 6% or 5% the first 6 months and 80 to 90% of it in 3 years. So those are the kind of constraints we're looking at. But we also have the 100 million to spend as well. So we'll definitely get back to you on that. Good suggestion.
Great, thank you.
Chris, great idea. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, for getting us the numbers. And then Chris and Todd, you'll work. I know that we've done this in the past, but you know, it's moving parts that have to work in concert, which is projects and timing of all that. So I just wanted to make sure that we highlight those pieces. And Chris, you're shaking your head, so okay, just to make sure we've got all the pieces in alignment if we were to do that.
Yeah, and I guess to Karen's point, right, like there's only a little more room to take referendum money. And do we have projects right now that can be completed? And I guess that's a Todd and Chris question that I'd like to hear more about, right? Like, because, you know, balancing it's a great idea to take more, but if we can't spend it because the project timeline's not there, then it doesn't make sense to me. So I'd like to hear more from Todd and Chris to make sure the projects are available.
Just so that people are clear, I put that out there. I mean, this is about the bond right now, but I just kind of did a placeholder about the projects and just the moving parts together. Okay.
Great. Anything else?
That's it, I think. Thank you, Elizabeth.
All good to see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next up is the transition center design. And are you gonna give a little background before, and then a little background, and then we'll have White
I will go to the microphone.
do the.
So we, as you know, at your board meeting in December, you authorized the purchase of the property, I'm saying formerly known as the Abbey, because our students are currently in the process of looking at the possibility of renaming that property, which was owned by the Elmhurst Park District. It was good for both entities, the Elmhurst Park District and for us. Since the December Board of Education meeting, we've engaged with various stakeholder groups, with a group of parents, including some members of the Board of Education, with teachers who work at the center. We've asked students who are at the center for their feedback, and they've given us quite a bit of it. That process has yielded us a great plan for this evening, which you'll see in just a second. For around 10 years, our students who are aged 18 through 22 have been learning at the site up the street on York Road in a rented space. So there are some things that we have always wanted to do for students who are in our transition program. We actually looked at the space that you're currently sitting in for a variety of reasons, including having lots of accessibility concerns. We decided that we were not going to use this space long term, though we're currently using the space right around the corner as a temporary space for them. And so we're excited to move forward with the design of this new transition center on St. Charles Road, which is actually just west of York High School. Our students are really excited about it. Demo work is beginning very, very soon, if it has not done so, if we have not already done so. So I will turn it over to Craig Siepke from White Architects for an overview of the plan.
Thank you, Dr. Rubenstein. Dr. Yankee, Dr. Campbell, I know you're out there. And ladies and gentlemen of the board, thanks for having us back. I'm here with Leanne Meyer-Smith, our project manager. And you got the quick breakdown of the history up till this point. And we're pleased tonight to share with you a brief summary of the hard work that's been done in terms of looking at renovating the Abbey before your transition program. And we're going to start off. The format is very similar to a lot of the other presentations you've seen in the past. Because this is mostly an interior renovation project, we're going to start right off with the floor plans that you see before you. And generally speaking, looking at keeping the main entrance, if you're familiar with the Abbey, it's along the main entrance is along the east side of the building. Where you see that bigger red area at the bottom of the screen is where the current entrance is. We're keeping that primarily in the same location because it interfaces the parking lot, and we'll get to the site plan in just a minute so you can see. But when we start taking a look at the building itself, it's kind of divided into well, kind of a 1/3, 2/3 scenario. So the first third, as you walk into the door, everything that is kind of straight ahead over there is dedicated mostly to the staff and some of the support functions for the program itself. So When you look at number 5 up there, there's some workstations or some private offices. They have conversations. Staff can have conversations on the phone and so forth. Conference rooms across the hall with some workroom and then some public toilets. Similar, I probably should have started with this, similar to what we're doing at all the other schools, we do have a secured entry vestibule where visitors will need to be checking in, identifying themselves, screened before they're allowed to enter into the building itself proper and conduct their business. So that's a very similar situation to what we're doing at the elementary schools that we've done to date and that we will be doing in the future as we move into subsequent projects. On the right side, the other 2/3 of the facility really is dedicated strictly for the students. And so a variety of functions over there on top of 9 and 10, which are the toilet facilities. We have smaller group rooms. We also have classroom therapy rooms. Number 16, vocational training. That's the program that's temporarily located up here on this floor over here. It will be put back into with the rest of the program, the transition program. So that's kind of a nice feature. Number 17, kitchen area that we've, based on subsequent conversations with community members, made a little bit more flexible and operational for the program, the students, and the like. And then number 14 being sort of the commons area. We're calling it the rec room. Really, it's a highly functional, flexible space that can be arranged depending on what's happening at any given time, not just daily, but any given time during the course of the day. Finishing off some of the major spaces over there, space number 8 was the therapy room, the medical room or area. And you'll notice that if you can see on the plan, although we have all these individual rooms identified, one of the main features and the drivers behind how we've organized this plan was to make sure that we had as open and visible a space as possible. So seeing through the spaces, into the spaces, not only for to maintain security reasons and safety, but really to make the building and the space feel a little bit more alive and a little bit more open. Really does do a lot of good for the psyche. One of the next steps that we're going to be doing on top of, now that we've gotten the floor plan set, is really to start taking a look at the finishes, which will have a huge impact in the feel of the environment and just how people kind of go about doing the students in particular go about doing their business. So that's the floor plan in a nutshell. Maybe I'll just stop right here if you have any questions, and then we'll get on to maybe a couple other views that will give you a more 3D perspective on this. Any comments? Sure.
I'm just curious, what is getting stored in area number 18, and is that outside?
Number 18, that's actually for some mechanical equipment as well as some maintenance equipment on the outside of the building. Yes. We do have a small mechanical electrical room in the bottom of the floor plan there, 7A, 7B, and those are areas that we've kind of allocated and dedicated strictly for some of those maintenance items or the infrastructure systems and so forth. But we do need a little extra space and thought that right on the outside of the building in the back over there would be the most ideal place to put it, seeing that we don't have any windows in that particular section of the facility.
And what do you think of the the shell of the building that you're working in there?
Well, we are doing some, it's sturdy, it's good. We are doing some improvements on the outside around the building in terms of replacing some windows, adding some windows, depending on the floor plan configuration. We'll also be doing some tuck pointing, and currently we're looking at just some slight updates to an inclusion of a canopy at the front of the building, just to identify the entrance a little bit more, but there aren't any major aesthetic improvements that we're considering other than that.
But you think the structural integrity of the building is worth this investment?
I think we're right on line with it, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
you know, one of the reasons why we don't have to do too much is because the outside of the building is in fairly decent shape. Mm-hmm.
And Terry, I know that you said, you know, aesthetics, but the overhang entryway is functional too.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I have, I think, 3 points. One is you're showing interior. How about exterior? And the key question is parking lot, that sort of drive-through is going to remain the same?
Yep, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna get there. Let's just,
Yeah,
let's
okay,
go right there
okay.
right now. I
So, but-
opened it up for questions and.
Okay, so, but functionally though, then another question was the difference of square footage, what we're leasing and this.
I don't remember the existing right now. I know that this particular facility is 5,000 square feet, and I think we're more than a few hundred square feet more than the existing.
Yeah.
So we are increasing the square footage.
Okay. And then I like the fact that you've started to say this piece of it. As you're talking about the design, the feedback that you've gotten from, you know, everyone to tie it into as to the whys of why you're designing it is very helpful, because I don't have a lot of that, so thank you. I think it's helpful.
Yeah, a lot of conversations for this building, and while we, you know, it's good to have those conversations. It's you take everything into consideration when you're designing, and you have to marry that and align that with the budget, and that has been true for every project I have ever done in my entire professional life, and this is no different. So let's go to the next slide, and these next few slides, we're just going to go very quickly. These are what we call dollhouse view slides. So we're standing above, we've taken off the roof, and just gives you a little bit more of a 3D perspective on how things look and the way the furniture is kind of fit or are projected to fit inside each one of the spaces. So, you know, the red arrow, the bigger red arrow at the bottom of the screen, again, is the main entrance, the security vestibule. And then you really get a good idea. You really get a good idea between that 1/3, 2/3 thing. So here's that dividing line right here. A lot of support, staff space. And then you can see all the other space over here dedicated for the students. And with this 3D perspective, you get the idea. You can see the amount of glazing that we have going into the rooms at corners and so forth. Again, this whole idea of opening up the building and making visual lines in between all the spaces. So you really, at any point, you could see into a majority of the student occupied areas. Can we go to the next slide? This is just another view standing on the southwest corner. And I think the next one offers even a better perspective of the student areas, and you can see it right over here. So this is your vocational training room right over here. The kitchen area, open to the rec area. One of the nicer features of that space is the fact that they have a fireplace, and we're looking at keeping that and making that a feature or a focal point in the rec room area. And so I've been in front of you several times before. You'll know that we always start with the site plan. And in this particular instance, when we go to the last slide, this is the last slide we're going to share with you. And the reason why we're doing that, because a lot of our effort has been concentrated on, can we change the slide? There you go. Because we've concentrated a lot of our effort and a lot of the work that's going into this project is about the inside. The outside, because of the configuration and quite honestly the condition of areas, we're doing some light touches to make some improvements, but keeping the asphalt primarily in the same kind of configuration, or at least in the same square footage and location that it is right now. So you can see the one-way pass, the parking for visitors on the north end as they interface the residential district. And then along the tracks, that's York High School right over there. We're looking at reconfiguring the parking so that we get a bus drop-off lane dedicated there. And then around the outside, a series of storage sheds and so forth for maintenance equipment, because we're still going to have, there's quite a bit of green space there that Todd and his staff will have to be taken care of. We are looking at some planter beds. And then number 4, you'll notice over there, we have included in the budget a sort of a half-court basketball playing area for the students. And then lastly, sort of that red striped area on the west side is going to be a outdoor patio that has access from some of the spaces on the inside. So kind of a few nice features there for the students to participate and get out to the outdoors, enjoy the fresh air, and expand the program a little bit. So as far as that goes, you know, it's kind of hard as far as, because we're not changing a lot of the outside. To show pictures of the outside is really just replace a window here or there and do some tuck pointing. That's not something that we typically do pictures for. Like I said, we are looking at including a small canopy at the front of the building. The team is hard at work in the office right now looking at that as well. And we'll have some renderings prior to going out to bid later on.
Can I ask, is that existing landscaping or is that new landscaping along the
That
road?
is contemplated as existing landscaping right now. So, I mean, it's a kind of a, there's some trees, there's a lot of scrub and so forth. We are doing a little bit in terms of landscaping, but it's not considered to be kind of really heavy at this point.
And then Jim asked about the outside. I wondered about the roof as well. Is that part of, is the roof in good shape? Or is
Yeah,
that
I
part
think
of the plan?
we checked out the structure, we checked out the roof. So again, there's probably just a little bit of patching that's going to have to go along with that. There's also a mansard roof on the outside. Probably have to reclad that. We were hoping to take it off. That would have changed the appearance significantly. What we found when we did our investigation was that the actual wall didn't go up all the way. And there will be some challenges, both from a craftsmanship standpoint as well as a money standpoint, to remedy that situation. So just recladding it on along the front with a nicer material will help out the aesthetics of the building a lot. So.
Can't we just paint it white or something? I mean, just, I hate to dumb it, like, just something. I mean, that's just my opinion, but it just aesthetically, it is hard to, I mean, paint that brick white. People do it all the time. Just one clarifying question on the, I'm sorry.
Got it white.
I know, people paint what brick all the time.
Yep.
On that parking at the back, did you state it was for visitor parking, and was that a miss?
I did. It's actually not for it's staff parking.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's what I want to make sure, because that would make sense to
You
me.
don't want to have visitors in the back.
No, I
of
don't
your
want the
building.
visitors back
Yep.
there. I want them out in front going through that secure entrance.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
correction. Mhm.
Just one other question about the landscaping. So is, with the tracks right there and there being some outdoor areas for the students to spend some time outside, is there any need for any barrier landscaping for sound or for aesthetics out there that needs to be done in addition to what's there, or is it?
Our recommendation is for now what we'll kind of hang in there with what we're proposing, and then as the students live in the space, landscaping is one of those items that is easily updated, and as you kind of live with the whole scenario, and I think that's going to be the case over here as well. And actually, it might even offer an opportunity for the students, a learning opportunity for the students,
Yeah.
as they go through the program. So
Sounds great, yeah.
that's our thinking.
Great, thank you.
Just a quick question about the fence along there. Is that ours to, like, is that ours or
I
the?
believe that's on your property.
The fence.
Fence along the train tracks, right?
Yeah.
On the other side towards the apartments.
Right now on the, I forgot to say that, but along the west side over there, there is no fence, no barrier whatsoever. So we're just going to have a small fence there to help kind of contain the area, the property.
So then we'll make sure on the train track side, the railroad side, that it's a safe,
Yes.
that the fence is either new or it's checked or, okay. So no one can walk through.
Well, there's a fence there, and then you have a bunch of bushes and
Yeah, I know
and
the
trees and stuff.
yeah,
So
landscapes.
no
Okay.
one's going to be crossing
Yep.
there.
Yeah, that was it. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Thanks so
Fantastic.
much. And so I participated in one of the focus groups, and I noticed some of the changes that you made. So I just always like to note that you did listen to what people say and made some adjustments. So thanks
We
for that.
do our best.
I know you do. You do a great job. So thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Nice seeing you all again.
Thank you. Okay, next order of business is the first read for new policy 7 .345, use of educational technologies, student data privacy and security. So,
And just as a little bit of background, when I got the agenda, the first agenda, this was on the consent agenda, but it's actually a first reading, so it can't be voted on at this meeting. It's to act on at the April 27th meeting. And I know the members of the policy committee have reviewed this, and this is necessary for us to work with vendors. This is to protect student data. And RJ is here to answer any questions, and I know Courtney knows a lot about this as well. Ms. Troutman.
I can just give a real quick brief. The Online Personal Protection Act is law, right? So it requires boards to adopt a policy regarding how we protect personal data of our students. And so to be able to engage in contracts with certain apps or different technology, this policy has to be in place to kind of guide our district on how we make sure those businesses and apps and technology are complying with this policy. Is that a good summary, RJ? No, there you go. I listened, see?
So this is policy, which is governance, and then there's procedures to ensure that it is implemented. And so we're, just so that everybody knows, from a board standpoint, what we will see first reading, second reading, vote on is from a governance standpoint about giving the community an idea of how we're protecting the student data and working with any other outside entities throughout the organization and in the classroom, protect the student information. And then behind the policy are procedures. So, it's ensuring that contracts and working with vendors or other organizations that we, now that we have technology and you use a lot of other people's applications and all, that that's all vetted. And just, I think that's important to highlight. It's just not this governance sitting there, but it's throughout the organization, and a lot of behind the scenes to protect and ensure that that happens.
Yeah,
thank you.
RJ and his team have been working really hard to figure out which one of which of the applications that we use and technology that we use will not be in compliance with this policy, and requiring that they become compliant before we actually engage in a contract with them again. Is that okay?
Thank you for that piece as well. It's important to know.
anybody else? Okay. All right, so then we're at superintendent's consent agenda. So the first question is, does anyone have an item they would like to pull off the consent agenda?
Yes, I would like to pull off item B, 7B, the Foundation 205 donation.
Okay. Anything else? All right. So then could I have a motion for the consent agenda items A and C?
I move that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items as followed. A, personnel report, and C, declare May 28th as the last day of school for the 2020-2021 school year.
I second the motion.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Jenna, then, and call the vote.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hostler?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio?
Yes, 7 ayes, no nays, the motion passes. All right, item B, could I have a motion and then we can discuss?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approve a donation of $30,500 from the Foundation 205 to fund student needs and diversity and inclusion efforts.
I second.
Okay. Questions or I think it's really more discussion, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I pulled this item just that I wanted to be sure that we gave the foundation the applause for what they do and what they've always done to support our students in a variety of different ways. And I just wanted to highlight some of the items that are within this. $30,500. Um, it's listed as there's $20,000 for York High School Youth Equity Stewardship Program in the fall of 2021. There's $5,000 set aside for Kids in Need, an angel fund used for the immediate needs of our most vulnerable students and to support their ability to engage in all our learning opportunities. And additionally, another $5,000 and $5,500 to enhance the diverse literature collection in each school library to help instill empathy and create an environment where students feel welcome, supported, and recognized. And each EC through 8 building will receive 20 new books, and York will receive 35. I just think all of these items are most important, and the foundation continues to do outstanding things for all our students in our community. And I wanted to be sure that we highlighted this. During this time of a lot of division and mistrust, this is just an example of what is done in our community and what we can continue to strive for and do in our community. So again, a special thanks to District 205 Foundation and all those who made this possible.
Karen?
Yes, I'd like to echo, thanks for the Foundation 205 for coordinating this and doing all the legwork and fundraising for our students, and the community for participating in those Foundation 205 Foundation activities and fundraising. We know that it takes a village, and we are grateful for our partners at the Foundation and all their hard work, as well as the community always rising to the challenge of the fundraising. Can I ask the question about the York piece?
Yes, and
Okay.
I told you yes, and then I didn't realize Shahey wouldn't be
That's
here
okay.
tonight. But
Okay.
I don't know if Scott knows a little bit about this program. I don't know the background of the York High School Youth Equity Stewardship Program. I know that's what you were going to ask about, right?
Yeah, so yeah, I just, if we can't tonight, if we can at the next meeting, I think it's important for us. It's a great opportunity for us to talk about equity and what we're really doing. And I don't want it to just be, out there without us. They've created an opportunity for us to share what we're doing. And I know that we approved several meetings ago on the equity schools for York. And so, my specific question was around, is it the same? Is it different? How is it linked? And I think that it's a great opportunity for us to share more in this forum and other forums, so that people know what we're really doing. Because I know I get asked, and people are interested. And so I just want to make sure that we utilize these great opportunities to highlight and educate and inform everyone about what's going on and the linkages and what they can expect to see, and et cetera.
I can talk briefly. There are, now that you mention it, several other initiatives aligned to equity taking place that we could perhaps, elaborate on even more at a future meeting. As you alluded to, there is the Deep Equity contract that was signed, which is also partnered through Corwin. Corwin also works with the Youth Equity Stewardship. So York has been working with some of the staff on, I think, February and March. They had dates around what's called the Deep Equity Training, which is related to Corwin. And then what's nice about the Youth Equity Stewardship is it has areas of alignment, but it focuses in on students. And we've heard that phrase lifelong learners used a few times tonight. And it looks at trying to help students feel like they can be enabled to make change and to engage in some of those conversations and some of those actions. So what's nice is the alignment piece, but I think you bring up a good point. We have a couple other really good celebrations of work and play, even things with Elmhurst University that we could definitely elaborate upon even more.
Excellent, thank you so much. I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Oh, Beth.
Thanks, Margaret, for highlighting that. And I just wanted to applaud the entire foundation board in their efforts this year. I know it hasn't been a normal year for fundraising and the other things that they do on an ongoing basis. And they've really worked hard to pivot and do things differently and continue to get the word out to our community members about what the foundation does and all the good things that happen in our schools because of the efforts that they are making. So just thank you to all of them for changing things up this year and continuing to do what you're doing under these circumstances.
Okay, there's nothing else. Then Jenny, you can call the vote, please.
Dr. Harrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen,
Yes?
Mrs. Hostler,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio.
Yes, 7 ayes, no nays, the motion passes. Okay, we already did superintendent's action items, so superintendent's communication, the update on the COVID metrics and factors.
Okay, so this is this is the first time I've been involved in preparing or working on this report, and I have appreciated the questions from the board that kind of helped me understand the kind of information that you need, the things that I'm sure that you're hearing in the community, and so this. In response to questions, this actual memo has been updated a couple of times this weekend. Now, I wanted to say before if Kevin's going to give an overview or if you wanted to ask some questions, that one thing that is clear to me is that we need to try to communicate better as much as we can how we are making decisions about what happens in contact tracing and how we make decisions about quarantining. Or who is quarantined, and I discovered myself. I again, having been retired, I didn't pay attention to how this was happening. I knew schools had to do this, but I wasn't paying attention to how. And then to see that things such as the guidance was changed to say students can be 3 feet apart, and that helped us. That allowed us to bring all students back to school all day, every day. But when you're contact tracing, you look at whether they're 6 feet apart. So even though they're allowed to be 3 feet apart, if they're near someone who is diagnosed with COVID, it's the 6 feet. And so it is confusing to say the least. And so to try to, and I certainly believe what I read, but I looked it up myself too to look and try to understand this. And I found the exact places where it says this, 3 feet is great, but 6 feet if you're exposed. And even if you're masked, even if you're wearing masks, the masks, it's very important for the kids to wear the mask, but that doesn't mean you are exempt from being quarantined. So we don't have a choice about following these guidelines. We don't have a choice, but I think I'm hoping we can do a better job of communicating to parents, and I would like to have that ready for the April 20, well, I'd like to actually have something online before the April 27th meeting, but if we could have some further discussion about that at that meeting as well. It seems to me right now that that's a flashpoint of now that kids are back in school, great, but why are so many kids being sent home? And so we need to talk about that. So just wanted to give that little bit of introduction. I appreciate Kevin worked to answer your questions and make modifications to the memo, but again, it's a confusing, complicated, complex process that is change. It's changing all the time as well. So yeah. So I don't know if you have further questions, comments, questions.
So can I just start with one big celebration, which is that our students are here, full days, 5 days a week with lunches.
Yes, I actually I was supposed to start with that. Yeah,
so,
thanks.
I mean,
Thank you.
that's
'Cause
really,
it went great. All of cabinet went out to visited every school as schools were opening yesterday, and we're out often again today and visited lunch periods, and things went very well. Teachers are happy that kids are back. Kids are happy to be back. So it's really a very nice, good news thing. So yes, I'm sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, no, it was, I was as Dr. Yonke said, we were all out in buildings yesterday and today, both at arrival and I didn't get to be at lunch today, but at lunch yesterday, just to see how things were working, and really very remarkable about how all of that is working, and physically distancing students and still making lunch work and still allowing students to be social. It was kind of interesting. At one of the buildings, students, one of the buildings I know of, students are allowed to use cell phones during lunch. And so as I was walking by, they were on FaceTime with each other. And I said, "Who are you FaceTiming with?" And he was like, "That guy right over there." It was like somebody in the lunchroom together. And I was like, waving right at the same time. So very much a celebratory event. We are in the process right now of refining some of the morning self-certification, especially at middle schools and high schools. It seems to be working well at the elementary buildings, and really working that out. Thanks to RJ and his team for linking that into the Power School system. So, for example, we can run a report just by clicking a button in the morning. So any school secretary, anybody can click a button right now, see who is not certified, call those students in, and get them to certify. So it's really become quite simple. I say that, somebody says, "Wow, that's really easy," but it took a little bit of computer programming, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. So in your board packets this evening, and as Dr. Yonke said, it was updated a couple of times. In the first section, we've received a couple of questions about who we listen to and who we report to. So in that first paragraph there, I talk about the fact that several different agencies have updated their guidance recently. We are required, and I have been explaining a little bit of this to Dr. Yonke, but we're required to listen to the most local. So if DuPage County has guidance, then we listen to them. If they don't have guidance, then we listen to the Illinois Department of Public Health. Usually, Illinois Department of Public Health is in alignment with DuPage County, but sometimes they're not. And so we have to listen to DuPage County Department of Public Health, but that first paragraph explains that. Dr. Yonke explained that second paragraph there. That third paragraph talks about the fact that 90% or more at this point of our staff are fully vaccinated. That significantly cut down the amount of staff who need to quarantine, since the state has issued guidance stating that basically if you are fully vaccinated, then you don't need to quarantine. So so imagine in the coming months when our students who are ages 16 or older are able to get vaccinated, and we have some students right now who are getting vaccinated, that is going to come into play there. So that's that. And then just on those last pages are all of our updated metrics and factors. As you have typically seen them, you just typically see them on a slideshow, but all of them are updated there for you to see. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, there's definitely a lot of cause to celebrate kids being in the classroom. So thanks for bringing that up. It's been heartwarming to pick the kids up from school after a full day. Only half of my children like that, to be honest, but heartwarming nonetheless. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's probably right.
My only comment on this framework is that I think that it is time to evolve it, because it was set up before we knew if we were even going to have successful vaccines. It was certainly set up before the rollout of vaccines on a wide scale. So I think that at a minimum, we need to look at adding things like, the percentage of our community that has been vaccinated, if there's a way to get to the percentage of high-risk community members that have been vaccinated, and what does that metric have to be before some of these restrictions start to go away? Because it's not 0 and it's not 100 either, and we're going to have that debate. So I think it'd be wise to start evolving that and talking about that at board meetings coming up soon.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Great suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah, and Linda, I really appreciate the fact that you laid it out there, that so many of these decisions, although incredibly frustrating for us as parents, us as board members, you, the entire team, they're not decisions that there's wiggle room on.
No.
And I think, believe me, it's frustrating for everyone, but I think it's important for the community to understand that this is not a haphazard, like, let's see how many kids we can close contact today, right? I do want to applaud the contact tracing teams that are out there, because the experiences I've had, and it's only been at York through sports, has been immediate, not just immediate, and that's to, Dr. Bagdasarian and Mr. Wagner and his entire team, but it's not just immediate that everything, like the acknowledgement it happens, right? And I think they've all said, give us that 48 hours to figure it out. And people are starting to understand that now, because within 24 hours, they've figured it out in 4 different scenarios that I've, have direct knowledge of. And they figure it out and they narrow it down, and they are minimizing the number of people that are actually impacted. So I recognize that. And if the community can just know that everybody, I really do believe, is doing their best to minimize the impact on the number of students that are quarantined. So is it fair to say, now that we're starting to get kids back, and I'm just thinking about our 6th grade Sandberg student tonight, is it fair to say that our building administrators in the district are going to start looking at the procedures that we have in place that could possibly tweak maybe lunch, so that there are other, because I don't think my daughter had much of a different situation. I go, oh, who'd you sit next to? She's like, I got no idea, right? Like never, and right, like she says, it's nice to meet friends, or new people, but is it fair to say that maybe we can look at it now that it's actually in reality happening, and maybe see if there's different ways we can do it better? I mean,
we actually talked about this a little bit today, and thinking about, you think of a freshman, a 6th grader, that although they have been going to school together, it's not like the first day of school, but it is the first time eating lunch together, which is a big deal for
well, and only half of them or a third of them have been going to school together.
Yes,
so
right.
if I'm a T, if somebody's an A, then she hasn't seen them all year.
Right. So yes, we are talking about that. I had one parent that inquired, talked about her daughter, and then found out it was a pod of kids that are together. Although you're right, maybe they weren't together on the same day. They're in the same class, but yes, we are talking about that. That reducing anxiety from kids, making sure they're around friends. We're following the guidelines. Again, we don't have a choice about following those guidelines, but trying to think of ways that we can make that experience as good as possible. We're glad that it's spring, and when kids get outside, we've noticed a lot of kids going outside at all the schools, and
so I would just
every day.
And I would just encourage the community, just give everybody a heartbeat, right? Like it's a plan on paper looks great, but the implementation always looks different. So let's just give our building principals a heartbeat to look at what it looks like in reality, and know that they're gonna do better. They're gonna keep working for the best options for our kids.
Right.
And then there's just one more thing. So on the data on the memo. So I think we should be clear that, on that additional information section, Kevin, that was updated. Thank you very much for updating this memo. It really is helpful. The outbreak that we had at Lincoln was not a school outbreak, right? That was outside of school, and those kids just all happened to come to school together. Were there additional kids that showed up at school that then ended up testing positive because that group of kids?
So To clarify, the DuPage County Health Department is currently in the process
Okay.
of investigating that.
Okay.
The definition of the outbreak is of an outbreak as defined by the Illinois Department of Public Health is there, and that is by definition
Sure.
that they would have been epidemiologically linked together.
Right.
So where they
But,
caught-
I'm sorry to interrupt, I don't know the specific details, but if, the 5 kids go or are in a carpool together and they're also in the same class together, that's not a school outbreak. That's a carpool outbreak that was then brought into the school. So the,
Correct.
the
Correct.
question really should,
Regardless of that, though, the how it's listed, because we're required to report when there's a cluster like that. We're required to report on that to the DuPage County Health Department, and then the DuPage County Health Department does investigation, and then they post that on their website and the Illinois Department of Public Health website for anybody to see. And it's reported as there was an outbreak of 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20 students at such site. So you can go, and it's updated every Friday.
Sure.
So that's how it's listed, regardless of where they caught it from, whether they caught it in the community or where they caught it from. They do the investigation, and they're the ones who figure out how they're going to report that.
yeah, no, and I understand all that. I guess from our purposes here, though, to determine if our students are safe, I would be interested in knowing, like, does this cluster, did that spread in our school because this cluster was there? Or are the mitigation factors we have in place, did they keep other students safe? And I think that's going to be the answer. I mean, I'm trying to give us kudos that these mitigation strategies that we have in place are stopping the spread of additional, spread. So that word outbreak, I think it scares people, and I just think we have to keep it in context. And I recognize you don't define that, they do, like everything else, so.
So we'll look into that and see what
Yeah,
we can do.
I
about
appreciate
what
it.
kind of information we can report.
Thank you.
Okay.
I won't repeat all the stuff that's been said tonight, but Dr. Yankee, it sounds like you're working on something that our community can help our community understand what is seemingly nonsensical guidelines or the things that we're obligated to follow, even though they don't follow medical science. But the one thing that hasn't been mentioned is this very courageous student that came tonight, I think brings up several good points, one of which has been discussed, but, others, the loneliness at lunchtime. This is, by bringing kids back to school, this is what we're trying to rectify is the loneliness and isolation of remote learning. Anything we can do about that, I think, would do our kids a lot of good. Plus the classroom issue of how kids are back in the classroom, but as this student pointed out, there's 2 kids in her class that are still remote, but the teacher sounds like is still in full remote regalia. Anything we can do to change our teaching methods to take more advantage of our kids actually being in class, I think our students would benefit from.
I just wanted to, Courtney, I understand the point that you're trying to make. I think maybe just a tweak of our wording on our website would be helpful with what you're talking about with the cluster, like the word cluster maybe even sounds better. We don't know where exactly that cluster, but not that it didn't happen in our schools. I just remember that looking at some reports earlier on when a lot of schools were remote, and the reporting that's done outside of us would say that this many students from this district had COVID, and they weren't even in school. They were fully remote. So it is confusing, and I think sometimes can just be a little alarming when people read that. So thank you for clarifying that a bit. And then thank you, Linda, for working together with everyone on the quarantine, because I agree, it is just confusing. And I think if people just understand the process with their children's buildings, then it helps to ease some of that concern and anxiety. So I appreciate you guys looking into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Oh, Karen.
Thank you so much for getting the kids back, and I know that it was a yeoman's effort, and you've done it, and you know, I hope that everyone is feeling humbly prideful about it, right? I mean, it's a good thing of all the work that you've done, and that in getting the kids back in itself is recognition, I hope. In addition to, I want to personally, on behalf of the community and the board, to thank everyone, because it's not always easy, especially because of things that are nebulous and, you know, outside of our control at times, and trying to navigate this uncertainty. So first off, thank you to everyone. The second, talking about the nuance of the quarantining, of, you know, what we're mandated to do versus kind of the nuance of implementing it. Is there an opportunity to talk with whoever it is, the organizations, so that they know once they move from 6 to 3 feet, that this nuance, you know, exists? Because I think that at that point, it was happening so quickly that they might not know the implementation nuance, but.
Well, I don't know, you know, we certainly can express our displeasure to the DuPage County Department of Public Health, but you know, they're in contact constantly with us, so I think they understand that this dilemma that we're in. We have all students there, they can't all be 6 feet apart all day, and yet they're, you know, they're expecting us to, but yes, we can express our concern about that.
Okay.
Conflicting guidance.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm just,
But I think,
okay.
you know, it's also important for, you know, it's not that, you know, I'm hoping that parents can better understand that this is not, we didn't make this up.
Yeah.
We didn't, you know, we have to follow this guy. We don't have a choice about
Yes.
it. And we didn't create it.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things, you know, that perhaps parents can also express their concern to.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an excellent point.
People
Because
who
I
made the
really
rules.
think, I mean, you know, I just think it's an opening conversation of, do you realize this nuance?
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of organizations move from 6 to 3 quickly, and I just think it might have fallen off the radar. They don't realize it.
So-
Well, I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, but many times, you know, that might help.
When it was issued, it was actually right in the, like, frequently asked questions. Does this mean that you're changing the close contact definition? Specific answer, no. We're not changing the close contact definition. This may result in additional quarantines in your district. Please be aware of that. They knew, IDPH, DuPage County Department of Public Health, knew exactly that this was going to be an outcome.
Okay, so, yeah, advocate for us, thank you, and community advocate to those organizations on our students' behalf. And then lastly, you know, around the IDPH or any organization, their investigative work, again, I think it's nuanced. You know, they're going to do the report, and it's just going to be kind of like from their framework. If we could just message it so that it's clearer of, it's not a school outbreak, but, you know, a little bit more, because you've done that in the past, and you know, this information, you've done that, that's always helpful. So I think I'm just trying to shed some light as to kind of a, you know, watching it all happen. You know, if we message it to be clearer and not like a crisis, you know what I mean, situation, or misunderstood, you know, it's great. So, you know, I know that there was one Jackson a while ago, and I remember getting reports, you know, to clarify what it meant versus the big story.
Karen, I just wanted to add that since from like December till probably beginning of March, I've called the governor's office, the Illinois Department of Health, the DuPage County Health Department, and ISBE every week for a few hours to make sure that they understand how the decisions they're making are complicating things and asking for relief for some of the things. So I just wanted to let you know that those hours, you know, they know that, you know, the complications, but, you know, you feel like if you keep telling them that's a reality, and what it's, you know, how it prevents the school districts, particularly larger school districts, from being able to operate. So I just wanted to let you know that I've been doing that.
And that's a great thing to share, and I think the more people that do that in a generous way, you know, just the nuances of
Right.
the complications. Yeah.
So I don't want to fail to mention that our administrative team, you know, I mentioned that everyone went out to schools, but our assistant superintendent for secondary and elementary education and Dr. Rubenstein, sorry, they galvanized their teams to provide support to the principals, helping to find lunch supervisors, helping to find, you know, just all of the different things that were going on, and everybody helped, but they in particular, in close contact with the principals, did a wonderful job, and you know, it was a lot of work. But I appreciate what the cabinet members and their teams did to support being able to, you know, we wanted to have enough supervisors so kids could have lunch and recess, and they helped to get that done, and. You know, and having the kids at the high school and middle schools have experiences, you know, we're trying to continue to look at their experiences at lunch as well as throughout the day. So anyway, I wanted to thank them. I was really impressed with the work that they did.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, anything else on that? Okay, then we are up to Tweet of the Week.
Good evening to the board. We are continuing our theme of celebration this evening. We're entering certainly our spring and closing out the year, so there are quite a few celebrations, but what we do with Tweet of the Week is to highlight good things that are happening through our social media, things that our staff happen to be posting, things that are really worthy of honor. This week's Tweet of the Week, grouped under the Ignite D205 hashtag, goes to Patrick Baker. He is our D205 Fine Arts Director. You can find him on Twitter at PatrickBaker13, and he is being recognized for his posts about York Live 2021 and the Fine Arts Week coverage that he's been giving. If you go on and look at his Twitter account, he has really been showcasing a lot of our fine arts great accomplishments that are happening this spring. If you're unfamiliar with York Live represents the talent, the dedication, and the resilience of our student musicians who are just amazing. At York High School, of course, throughout this school year, and the entire performance, as linked through his Twitter account, is on YouTube. It's about an hour. We're not going to play that tonight. I understand. But you can see one of the pictures highlighted there that really showcases just the passion of our students that are engaged in fine arts. We are a fine arts community, and one of the things that Patrick told me most recently is that the National Association of Music Merchants Foundation has designated D205 as a best community for music education.
Nice.
So that is a really awesome thing. We'll be doing more with that in the coming days, but that is just a sneak peek of just how great and how wonderful this program is, what life it brings to many people, and special thanks to Patrick Baker for being so committed and covering that even on his social media. So congratulations, Patrick. Congratulations to our kids, and way to finish out an incredibly unusual and unique year.
Can I just say one thing? I don't know if tweet is singular or plural. I really don't, because do you? No. But can we do more than one of these? Can we have more shout outs?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
I just feel like every time I see one of these, it reminds me of how great things are happening with our students across our district.
Yeah.
So if you have to change it to a plural version of the word tweet,
Yeah.
that's it's
Well,
tweets, tweets,
well,
tweets.
it
Can we have
is-
tweets,
it is-
tweets?
Yeah.
But can we
Tweet
do
is
more of
singular.
these, please?
Yeah.
They just, and it's such a
Yeah.
positive
Yeah.
message that we're sending to our community. So that's my take.
Yeah. And I know you created a good news kind of, there was we were going to do it and the tech didn't work. So maybe next time.
Yes.
Like
I'll
from
bring the
la-
video
from
back. We did post it
last-
on social
yeah.
media. For all those who are not following, you're missing a treat. Follow us, Elmhurst D205. Don't put the space in, Elmhurst D205 on
But yes.
any of those. But yes, grammatically,
news.
tweet is singular, tweets plural. And we may even go and get radical and go posts of the week and
There you
cover
go.
all social media.
There you go.
So
That's
there you
awesome.
go. All right.
Yeah, more good news. That's
Yep,
great.
absolutely.
Bev, can I give one more shout out to the some of the things going on in the district? There's been some drama performances, and there are more. There's another one coming up that I've seen some little sneak peeks of that it looks amazing. And every time I watch these performances, I'm just like blown away by what our students are doing. So if anybody in our community has the opportunity to watch what these kids are doing, not just, in music and all the fine arts, but these drama performances that are, I know there's some coming up, so keep an eye out for them.
Absolutely. And greatness is not just refined or contained to our students, but our staff, pretty sweet. They're doing some great things. If you haven't been on Facebook or our Twitter accounts or Instagram accounts most recently, we've had some folks make it onto NBC5. There are a lot of different things out there.
Yeah.
If you're looking for some good feels, that's where you go. Go to our social media accounts.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. Okay, board communications. Does anybody have anything? Okay. All right, upcoming meetings, April 20, 2021, Finance and Operations Committee meeting here in District 205 Center at 5:30. April 27th, 2021, Board of Education meeting here at 7 o'clock. May 11th, 2021, Board of Education meeting here at 7 o'clock. And May 25th, 2021, Board of Education meeting here at 7 o'clock. There is nothing else, then we are adjourned. Good night. Thank you, everybody.